2017 has been an amazing year for video games. A lot of good games have come out this year, and I've played around 30 to 35-ish games that were released in 2017. And I really wanted to do a video where I talked all about the games and gave some attention to games that were fun, even if I didn't think they were like top 10, top 20 worthy, but did something really cool. But I talked about a couple games on the podcast I'm on, and I don't think anybody really wants to watch a 2-hour long video where I say my opinions and experiences on just way too many games. Instead, I'm just narrowing it down to my top 10 favorite games that I played this year. These are the games that, when I started them, I couldn't put them down. I beat them in the weekend or week that I started them in. Games I had a lot of fun experiencing. And just because a game is on this list, it doesn't mean that I think it's got better gameplay or better graphics or whatever than games that didn't make it on the list. These are just my personal opinions of the games that I found the most fun or the most interesting to play in 2017. So, with that, here we go, my top 10 favorite games of 2017. Number 10, Resident Evil 7. It took me a bit to get into Resident Evil 7. I had played the VR demo the previous year and was pretty underwhelmed. Even as a fan of the series, I wasn't really expecting to pick this game up, but my friends told me it was great, so I snagged it on the Steam sale. It took 2 different attempts to get into. I only got through the house the first time around, but recently I restarted the game and I got through the entire game in one day. It was a ton of fun. Once I got into Resident Evil 7, I was into it. The Baker family is a lot of fun, and they're very charismatic characters. And once you get more weapons, the game evolves from this sort of scary, not doing a whole lot, just running away sort of game, into being the bombastically gun-infused fighting zombie sort of game that the series turns into. It suffers from the usual Resi design problems with meat sponge bosses and level design that starts off a lot more open, and by the halfway point becomes much more linear. But it's fun. It's got fun villains and a pretty creepy setting. It also has DLC that came out, with some of it being free, so if you're interested in Resident Evil 7, I highly recommend giving it a chance. Number 9, BlazBlue Central Fiction. This is going to be the most controversial game on the list, mainly because it came out in 2016, but so did Persona 5, so get off my dick. In preparation for the upcoming Dragon Ball Z Fighters game, I wanted to pick up the most recent fighting game from Arc System Works. And because I don't know the cheat code for finding out how to get the new Guilty Gear game on Steam, I just picked up the most recent port of BlazBlue, being Central Fiction. I've never played a BlazBlue game before, and I spent a good amount of time just in arcade mode learning the characters. The characters are a lot of fun. I liked learning all the different styles and different movesets of each character. Now, in the casual-ass fighting games that I play, every character's moves are performed the same way. Everybody has a down B, or everyone has a quarter circle turn light, or whatever. But there are characters who have totally different super bars in this game. They have characters who have to combo using only quarter circle turn moves. It was really cool. I had a lot of fun just going to town in the arcade mode for about 11 to 12 hours. Then I went into the story mode. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm in the minority on this or not, but I think visual novel plus fighting game was a pretty cool idea. I don't play standard visual novels or anything, so this was my first one, and I got pretty wrapped up in the story. I like anime, and I like this anime-ass story it had. I also enjoyed the fact that you did the actual fighting in the visual novel. It has those flashing around moments, but then eventually you actually get to fight, and I thought that was a really cool concept. The music for BlazBlue is also really good, and while the story is all over the place, I still found it fun and really enjoyed the gameplay. But I can see people getting annoyed about a 2016 visual novel anime fighting game being on this list at all. And I get it. I just had never seen this type of game before, and I thought it was super cool and spent a whole bunch of time playing it. Number 8, Pyar. I was a huge fan of Bastion and Transistor, and Pyar is no disappointment. The art design is fantastic, and the music is unbelievable. The character designs and world designs and the animations of it all in action is just so gorgeous to look at. This is a pretty narrative-heavy game, but the soccer sports gameplay is also a lot of fun. The creative setting and the atmosphere around it with the visuals and music really make Pyar an enjoyable experience. This game takes you on a pretty reasonably solid journey that has a lot of good characters in it and a lot of good character growth. It's a really fun game that is definitely worth playing since it also looks and plays as well as it reads. I did spend 2 episodes of my podcast talking about this game though, so I'm just going to jump to the next one on the list. Number 7. Cosmic Star Heroine. This game is probably the most underrated game to be released in 2017. I think it's because it came out the same day as Ukulele, and also because it was released with a bunch of bugs. Nowadays, you can play the game with little to no bugs, at least I didn't encounter any on my last playthrough. Zeboyd makes really fun RPGs, especially for those who don't like RPGs. They have instant HP restoration after every battle, and there are no random encounters. Cosmic Star Heroine balances this by having a really solid combat system. There's a lot of customization with your party and your equipment that lends to the creation of actually crazy combos. And also the fact that you can't just spam the same moves over and over again, it forces you to use different moves and different tactics with each fight. The sprite work is phenomenal and the music is awesome. Really, this game can be boiled down to Chrono Trigger meets Mass Effect. If that interests you, go check this game out. It's criminal how little people talk about it. Give it a chance. I don't think it will disappoint you. Number 6. Gravity Rush 2. For me, Gravity Rush 2 is like Season 2 of an anime. I can't help but feel like this game won't be as appreciated as it should unless you play the first Gravity Rush. This game does not explain what happened before or reintroduce any of the characters met from the previous title. That being said, this game is great. The world is so much bigger with a plethora of activities to do. Flying around is a lot easier as well as throwing objects. Combat has been refined and Cat even has 2 additional styles that affect movement as well as combat. With a light gravity style and a heavy gravity style, it adds a lot more fun, interesting things you can do in-game. They don't make the combat super deep or anything, but it keeps the game from getting boring. Gravity Rush 2 is a great sequel, really expanding and improving on the first game. Bigger world, more in-depth combat, and a lot more story. The story is almost identical in pacing though, with a slow start followed by spikes of build-up and then an ending that is very out of the blue. And Gravity Rush does this twice. You'll see what I mean when you play it. But either way, it's a blast and the DLC is free, so get on it. Number 5. Night in the Woods. I don't know if there's a game more relatable to me out right now. Night in the Woods is about a 20-year-old piece of shit who drops out of college and returns home to her small town. I also happen to have been a 20-year-old piece of shit when I dropped out of college and returned to my hometown. This game captures, very accurately, what it's like to move back home, how your family reacts, how your friends react, and more importantly, how it feels to escape the world you felt so imprisoned by, only to return defeated. Obviously, I found these characters relatable, but I think it's more in the writing than in the similar situation. These characters talk and act much like how me and my friends talk and act. They're great. I really enjoyed being around them. And the game is a lot more enjoyable following these characters than it is with the overall story. The story takes its time starting up, but once it shifts gears, it keeps going, and I found this game super hard to put down. The music is also fantastic and really brings in the atmosphere that the game is trying to go for. I feel like I'm saying that the music's great for almost every game on this list, but it's true. It's been a pretty great year for music. Night in the Woods, I can't recommend enough. This game hit me on so many different levels. It is by far the most relatable game I've ever played, and probably will play in the next couple years. Number 4. Persona 5. If I had to describe Persona 5 with one word, I would say style. Persona oozes with style, from the soundtrack through the gameplay and all the way into the menu. The game's jazzy soundtrack, along with the intense color scheme it's got going on, just really breathes some sort of unique flair to the game that you just don't get from anywhere else. The gameplay of Persona 5 is your standard turn-based JRPG, combined with a life/dating simulator. The characters are pretty charming, and the game does a good job of wrapping you up in their version of Shibuya. The Pokemon-esque monster gathering and fusing is pretty good, but again, the combat doesn't do anything special really, and the game eventually turns into a buffing your party, debuffing the enemy party type of game. I had a lot of fun playing through Persona. My biggest complaint would be that it's an 85-hour long game. I even felt like the game ended too soon. But I don't know how you can make the game any shorter. I just can't see myself investing that much time into any other game or anything else anytime soon. Even though the game was 85 hours long, I definitely didn't feel, it felt like I was playing the game for 85 hours, but I didn't regret playing the game for 85 hours. It's a great game, and if you got a lot of time to kill, I recommend picking up and trying out Persona 5. It's pretty darn good. Number 3, Uncharted Lost Legacy. I've always really liked Uncharted games. I've also really liked Indiana Jones, and Uncharted is as close as I'm gonna get to a fun-filled adventure movie like it. Lost Legacy has the best gameplay out of any of the previous titles, though the gameplay still isn't anything super special. Whenever people talk about this game, they talk about the mini open world chapter, which is the most surprising and also best bit about Lost Legacy. I wouldn't want to play a full game like that chapter, but I really appreciated that it was in the game. The story and characters of Lost Legacy are essentially the side characters taking up the mantle of Nathan Drake, becoming the roguish treasure hunters who give up the treasure to save the world. I really enjoyed watching Chloe turn into the person she was inherently complaining Drake being in Uncharted 2. I ended up really liking the final chase sequence as well, and the game just as a whole was a lot of fun. It ties up what happens to the characters who didn't get a resolution from Uncharted 4's ending. With as much as I like Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, I like the closure the most. We know what happens to Nate, Elena, and Sully. Now we know what happens when Nathan Drake's out of the picture. This game isn't going to make you change your opinion on Uncharted games. If you like Uncharted, you're probably going to like Lost Legacy, and if you don't like Uncharted games, you're probably not going to like Lost Legacy. With all that being said though, I'd like to see some new stuff out of Naughty Dog and give these treasure hunters some well-deserved time off. Number 2, A Hat in Time. I already made a video talking about how much I love A Hat in Time, and now they have mods, so that's pretty cool. This game proves that 3D platformers have a market today. It's clear how much genuine passion is put into this game. It may not have the best animations or graphics, but the gameplay is amazing and the level design is so good. And the controls are just... I already made a video about this, whatever. Just go play Hat in Time already. Just go. Go. Go! Number 1, Nier Automata. Surprising nobody who knows me in real life, Nier Automata is my favorite game from 2017. It's a game I thought was so good that I believed saying how much I liked it counted as a spoiler for the game. So I guess spoilers incoming. I'm gonna try and leave the story bits out and just talk about the reason it's number 1. Now some people say that if you didn't like Nier Automata, it's because you just didn't get it. I mean, if you only played through one ending, then I'd agree. Yeah, you didn't get it. But really, I think it's more like either you cared about what the game was saying and how it was saying it, or you didn't. Nothing wrong with it, but the game really hit home for me. The story this game tells and the message it has isn't all that crazy. It's good, but it's not like mind-blowingly good. How it tells its story, with all the rules it breaks and the expectations it plays with, and how it combines into a real experience, that's the crazy part. Good visuals I can get from movies, good music I can get from albums, a good story I can get from books. What Nier Automata offers can only be given by the media it's presented in. It was my favorite experience of 2017, and I did also like the visuals, the music, the gameplay, and the story. I didn't mind backtracking around since it felt like each area opened up a little more with each revisit and each revisited revisit. But again, the reason it was my favorite, my number 1, was because of the experience the game provides. I'm doing my best not to really talk about how the game goes about doing it and all the smart things and the really cool things it does and all the choices and the dialogue and gameplay or anything like that. So I really recommend trying this game out, but be careful because it's not for everybody. But if it's for you, you're gonna have an awesome time. So that was it. I don't own a Switch, so I didn't get to tackle any of the Mario games that came out this year, and I really wanted to get around to Prey, but I didn't have the time. I got a lot of high hopes for the future of gaming. I've had a pretty rough 2017, and I'm pretty glad that the games of 2017 are as good as they are. Have a great new year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in 2018.